It's very quick. Jim Clarken is my name. I'm from Oxfam, Chief Executive here in Ireland. You're very welcome to Ireland, for those of you not from here. We're probably here in the room as a critical friend of the World Bank and its group, and we acknowledge absolutely the role of DFIs in fragile states and the critical role that it can play, particularly vis-a-vis bilateral donors, where it possibly is seen as more apolitical. It also has a different risk profile, which is important. So we see a great opportunity and great importance in that type of funding. However, we have been quite critical in the past of some of the types of investments and the human impact that they've had, inadvertent or otherwise. We issued a report last year which highlighted serious human rights abuses through projects that were funded in Honduras, in India, and in Guatemala. And just in Guatemala specifically, we talk about the Cabalan Dam, where what should have been a fairly middle-range risk and middle-range size project that was funded through IFC intermediaries actually ended up causing a tremendous conflict that ended up in the first state of emergency in Honduras since their own conflict. So, you know, this is the scale. When it goes wrong, it can go really, really go wrong. So what we would be encouraging is that when the financial risks are being assessed and being analysed, what also needs to happen is we need to look at environmental risks and social risks, and at the same level, and balance those three things to ensure that, you know, if the financial risk parameters look okay, but if the social risk impact is going to be detrimental, then just do not proceed. And then we also want to talk about some of the types of investments that we are very wary about and need to be proceeded with a lot of caution, which are particularly those in the provision of essential services, health and education. And we think that, you know, there's a legitimacy for the types of investments into the private sectors in those spaces, but they can't undermine public services, and they can't undermine the space that public services provide. And we give an example in Lesotho. There was which is one of the poorest and most unequal countries in the world, where there was an investment in what was to be the great new way of investing in healthcare in Africa, as it was described at the time, ended up committing the Ministry of Health in that country to half of its entire budget over the next 18 years in one single hospital that will benefit a tiny, tiny percentage of the population of Lesotho. So I suppose our message is to focus on those types of risks, be clear on the kind of investments, and there is a great legitimacy in investment in areas like supply chains, innovative access to energy for poor communities and so on. But I'd come back to Claire's message at the very start, which is to talk about ensuring that this is people-led development, that it isn't done over the heads of people, that it is involving communities from the get-go, all the way through, to ensure buy-in, to ensure that it is the right type of investment for what we all believe in, which is lifting people out of poverty, and that it doesn't become white elephant, or it doesn't become exclusively for the support of a minority within any particular country. That's it. Thank you.